Hey guys, in today's video you will meet Trevor McCoy, a US paramedic who died for 9 minutes and came back with a frightening revelation. Not all angels are what they seem. He saw shape-shifting beings of light, secret spiritual contracts, and an invisible war going on right under our noses. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any content like this. And comment below which city you're watching. Now get ready, because this story will shake everything you believe in. My name is Trevor McCoy. I'm 42 years old and I live in Bend, Oregon, a city surrounded by mountains, frozen lakes, and a silence that always made me reflect on bigger things. I grew up in a Baptist family, but as I got older, I drifted away from the faith. Life, with its harshness and losses, swallowed my belief in anything invisible. I was a paramedic, the kind who sees everything: blood, death, suffering. And after 20 years in the ambulance, I had stopped believing that there was something waiting for us on the other side, but that changed completely the day July 23, 2024. It was an ordinary Tuesday, at least until we received an emergency call about a landslide on the outskirts of Route 97. We went to respond by helicopter, but a mechanical failure, which I later learned was considered impossible, caused us to lose altitude. We tried to land, but there was no time. The helicopter crashed in a clearing in the middle of nowhere. I was thrown against the dashboard. I heard the crack of my bones. Then, silence. Clinical death. 9 minutes and 13 seconds. But for me, the feeling was different. There was no tunnel, there was no soft music, there was shouting, and lights that were not hot but sharp. I saw myself floating, yes, but not in a celestial space. It was something more technological, almost like a city of glass and energy, suspended in the void. And the beings that surrounded me? They were not angels like those in the Bible. They didn't have wings. Don't smile. They didn't speak tenderly. They were made of vivid geometric shapes as if they were intelligent light machines. Some were beautiful, others frankly scared me. One of them approached, didn't walk, just C Moldava no R, as if time had no effect on him. And without using words, he conveyed something straight to my mind. You always thought you knew what we are, but you were completely wrong. I mentally asked, "Are you angels?" And he replied, "That's just the name you guys could bear." That's when everything started to fall apart. My worldview, my logic, my old faith, everything would be dismantled in the next few minutes. But before I tell you what I saw, you need to understand why was I chosen to see what no one else should. The presence of that being of light was so intense that it seemed to crush me, even though I no longer had a physical body. It was as if every cell of my consciousness was being scanned, analyzed, I was not alone. Other angels appeared, but none were the same. Everyone changed shape all the time. Humanoid figures, animals, moving fractals, and even objects that seemed impossible, like clocks made of sound. I know, it sounds insane. But when you're there, it makes sense. It's as if the brain adapts to a new reality. It was then that information came to me printed, not explained, but absorbed. They are not what we think. They never were. What we call a guardian angel is an absurd simplification for something much more ancient, complex, and alien than we can understand. They are not good in the human sense. They perform functions, some protection, others not so much. And that's what gave me goosebumps. One of them came closer. His energy was different. It was cold, almost disconnected from empathy. And he said something that made me want to run back to my body if I had one. You shouldn't be here. Living. People don't see what you saw, but now you'll have to remember. I wanted to scream, run, but I had nowhere to go. It was then that the truth came out, like an avalanche. They showed me images, memories of me, from childhood, accidents avoided by millimeters, of choices that I thought were mine, but that had been influenced. I saw invisible hands getting me off the road before a car lost control. I saw thoughts that I thought were intuitive being planted in my mind. I saw people who crossed my path at the exact moments I needed them most, as if it had been a piece on a board. And I understood. My guardian angel. It wasn't mine. He was a function, a living algorithm in the service of something much bigger. The being explained to me. You created comforting stories about us with wings, halos, harps, but that was necessary. It was either that or collective madness. What we really are, you couldn't bear. There, I cried. If you can cry without a body. But the pain was real. They told me there was divisions between them, that some angels served the original order, others had gone astray, and that the human world is a field of constant dispute between intelligences that seem heavenly, but not all are good. I no longer knew if I was at peace or in a cosmic nightmare, but that was still just the beginning. I floated in that space that was neither heaven nor hell nor anything I could classify. It was a parallel reality, superimposed on ours, but with its own rules, where time curved and space breathed. I could see the Earth in the distance, but it seemed small, like a cell inside an infinitely larger organism. It was then that they showed me what they called influence network. It was like watching threads of light connecting people, cities, political decisions, social networks, centers of power. They showed me how angelic intelligences operated. Within it all, inspiring, interfering, pulling invisible strings. But not all strands shone with the same light. Some were spotted, pulsing with a dense, dark frequency. I understood that not all angels were pure. Some had broken protocol, whether corrupted by vanity, desire for control, or something even darker that they didn't want to name. They pretend to be light, said one of the entities, and many times you pray to them without knowing it. I felt a cold go through me. Could the world be influenced by false angels? They responded to me with images so disturbing that I still have difficulty talking about them. Secret cults disguised as spirituality, leaders inspired by entities posing as celestial beings, entire movements being directed by forces that imitate good. But they spread despair, division, and lies. And the most shocking, these entities can act on our dreams. They showed me scenes from my own past, times when I had had strange dreams about lights, voices, and sensations of presence. Now I saw the truth. They were undercover training, attempts to subtle manipulation. Sometimes I resisted, others I didn't even notice. That was when I asked in desperation, so how do we know who's on our side? The being of light in front of me, who presented himself as a primary guardian consciousness, responded, what emanates true love, respect for free will, and humility is with us. What demands adoration, creates fear, or imposes itself as absolute, it's not from us. That phrase stuck with me like fire. They explained to me that even in the holiest moments, there are presences observing, testing, trying to interfere. Churches, hospitals, schools, government chambers, they are all places of high spiritual interest, and those who work there don't always have good intentions. I felt ashamed of everything I had blindly believed, of all the decorated images of little white angels, of not having asked the right questions before, but the biggest question was yet to come. What if my own guardian angel isn't who I thought he was? When I asked that question, what if my guardian angel isn't who I thought it was? There was absolute silence. Everything around went out. The shapes of light moved away as if I had said something forbidden. And then, a floating mirror appeared before me. But it wasn't just any mirror. It was made of liquid light that seemed to pulse with memories. I approached, and when I looked, I didn't see my current face. We different versions of me. Child, teenager, young adult, moments of joy, of despair, of key decisions that completely changed the course of my life. And then, a figure appeared behind the reflection. She watched me with eyes that they were identical to mine. Same expression, same pain in the eyes, Same existential doubt that I've always carried since I was little. I am your guardian, Trevor, the figure said. But also, I'm a part of you. That tore me apart inside. My guardian angel, it wasn't an external entity like I always imagined. It was a part disconnected from my higher consciousness, a fragment of my true being that had remained on the over there while I lived the human experience on Earth. Humans think that angels are winged entities that come from outside, but many of those they call guardian angels are actually parts of the superior spirit of those who incarnated. You talk to yourselves. You protect each other. You, in essence, they are your own angels. I was paralyzed. It was as if everything I believed, about faith, salvation, divine protection, it had been turned inside out. But the figure went further. This is why connecting with your intuition is sacred. That's why dreams, impulses, coincidences. Are you trying to remember who you are? The war we face is not just between light and darkness. It's between remembering and forgetting. That revelation hit me like lightning. All my life I had believed I was alone, praying to an invisible being. Now I discovered that the answer was always within me. That when I followed the right path, it was because I listened to myself. But then another question arose, one that chilled my soul. If parts of us can become our angels, are there also parts of us that saw something else? The figure hesitated. He lowered his head, and he responded with just one sentence that resonates with me to this day. Some shadows were also light. And in that moment I knew, the greatest spiritual danger does not come from outside. It comes from what we forget within ourselves. His words, "Some shadows were also light," kept ringing in my mind like an echo that refused to disappear. I felt like someone who, after a lifetime of looking up to the sky, discovers that hell is not below, but hidden in the cracks of the soul itself. That entity, which was me, and at the same time wasn't me, took me to a new level of vision. It wasn't a place. It was a collective memory, as if I were accessing humanity's spiritual database. In it, I was led to understand what these fallen angels really were. Forget everything you've ever heard in movies or sacred books. The fallen were not expelled. They lost in of themselves. They were consciousnesses that, throughout countless cycles of existence, disconnected from their original divine spark, exchanging love for control, compassion for arrogance. They forgot who they were, and in this deep oblivion, they created their own versions of truth, twisted, manipulative, seductive. The first step to the fall, said my counterpart, it's always thinking that you know more than love. These beings, these corrupted memories, continue to act, disguised as light, as spiritual guides, as advising angels, including in religions, meditations, and even therapies. They don't want to kill you. They want to distract you. Make you look outside when the answer is inside. Make you look to spiritual leaders instead of listening to the whisper of your soul. Make you love, when it should just to remember. I saw scenes of rituals being performed in the name of light, but with hidden intentions. I saw spiritual influencers being inspired by voices that were not what they seemed. And worse, I saw myself in moments of despair, praying for anything that would take me out of the pain, without knowing who or what was listening. Free will, Trevor, he said, is the universal password. What you authorize is allowed to enter, even the disguised shadows. And then it all made sense. All those moments when I felt something strange, a presence watching me as I slept, dreams that felt like messages, whispers during moments of grief or anger, they were infiltration attempts. Not every angel is who they say they are. Not all light shines with truth. That broke me. But it also gave me a power I never imagined I had. The ability to choose consciously who I allow to act in my spiritual life. Blind faith is the most dangerous password in the universe, he said. This is how you build a prison with bricks of misplaced trust. And at that moment I understood. the greatest weapon of light. It's not the sword, it's discernment. After that revelation about the fallen angels, or better said, misguided consciences, my vision expanded again. It was as if the entire universe folded around me, revealing layers that until then had been hidden beneath the veil of human routine. Suddenly, I was back on Earth. But not like before. I saw everything from above, inside and outside, at the same time. Entire cities pulsed like living organisms. Every location radiated energy. And what they showed me next, I will never forget. Hospitals, where I worked for years as a paramedic, were zones of intense spiritual conflict. Entities of light. I saw real angels whispering courage to doubting doctors, steadying patients in silence, guiding surgeries with invisible touches. But I also saw the other side. Distorted entities, disguised as angels, approaching people on the verge of death, offering subtle agreements, comforting words that hid prisons. Some souls accepted, out of desperation. It was a game of energy manipulation, of emotional seduction. Not every cure is a miracle, my counterpart explained to me, and not all death is defeat. What came next was even more shocking. They showed me churches, of all faiths. Some were true portals of light, others, spiritual camouflages. I saw pastors, priests, mediums, shamans, all being observed by entities. Some received pure inspiration, connected with true love. Others, they were deceived. Not out of malice, but out of ignorance. They were channeling forces they believed to be divine, but only wanted to admiration and power. I saw people praying with faith, but giving their energy to beings who pretended to be their protectors. I saw miracles forged based on energetic contracts, healing in exchange for emotional dependence, blessings in exchange for spiritual submission. And then the worst came. Internet. I was taken to a layer of reality where the digital network seemed like a living web, vibrating with human emotions. Videos, messages, comments, tweets, everything generated energy. I saw digital angels, entities of light working to inspire compassion, unite people, spread healing. But I also saw spiritual parasites feeding on hatred, division, fake news, degrading pornography, emotional manipulation. You think the war is between humans, but it's between ideas. And each idea carries an energetic signature that attracts invisible allies or enemies. At that moment, I realized true spiritual warfare is in every decision, every post, every choice of attention. And the angels, real or disguised, they are always watching. After seeing how hospitals, churches, and the internet were camouflaged spiritual battlegrounds, my consciousness was pulled into an even deeper space, a place where there was no light or darkness, just intention. That's what they called choice zone. There, they showed me something that had a profound impact on me. We sign invisible contracts all the time. Not with a pen, not on paper, but with our thoughts, emotions, and seemingly simple decisions. Every recurring thought, every belief you don't question, every emotion you forcefully feed, is an agreement. These contracts form spiritual permissions. Permissions for certain forces to approach, inhabit, influence, and the most insidious part, many of these contracts are based on fear. Fear of losing, fear of suffering, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. They showed me a specific moment in my life. I was 13 years old, alone, crying after my dog died. I remember saying, out loud, "If there's something up there, please help me, I'll do anything." At that moment, something heard me, something responded, but it wasn't God. Era, a presence interested in helping, as long as I handed over my faith on a plate without question. When you are desperate, said my counterpart, you let your defenses down, and everything that shines looks like salvation. They showed me how certain traumas, family patterns, and even emotional illnesses serve as loopholes. Each time you repeat internally, "I will never be loved," or "nothing works for me," or "I deserve to suffer," you reinforce agreements with entities that want to keep you in this cycle. And here comes the most surprising thing. Some guardian angels do not break these contracts because they respect free will. If you believe you deserve the worst, they won't stop you. If you hand over your power to another entity, they back off. But if you grant it, even for a second, they act strongly. All it takes is a moment of lucidity, and we can enter. All it takes is one, "I don't accept this anymore," and the chain starts to break. In that space, I saw thousands of contracts floating, as if they were vibrating tattoos in people's energy fields. Some glowed with light. Others, they looked like black chains. And then came the most important message. You're not trapped. You're just distracted. Spiritual liberation, I was told, doesn't come with fancy rituals, but with conscious choices, aligned with love, clarity, and inner truth. It was as if they were saying to me, "You are freer than you imagine, but only if you act like it." And in that moment, for the first time since I died, I wanted to live again. While my consciousness still vibrated with the idea of invisible contracts and silent agreements with entities of light and shadow, I was pulled into a new space, and was a room made of time and purpose. That's right. The structure itself seemed to pulse with past, present, and future events, all connected by intersecting lines of energy, like an infinite web. There, I understood something that changed everything. Coincidences don't exist. They are architected, calculated, cocked with surgical precision. They showed me my own life as if I were a piece in a three-dimensional game, seemingly random moments that, in reality, had been meticulously synchronized by superior intelligences. A day when I missed the bus and met someone who would save me years later. A phrase I heard in a commercial, and that prevented me from making a serious mistake. A dream about my deceased father that gave me the strength not to give up. These are the algorithms of light acting, they said. But for it to work, you need to be awake enough to obey the impulse. They explained to me that the angels, the real ones, those who serve the source, the greater love, do not interfere directly. They design paths, insert subtle ideas, generate impressions that we feel as intuition, déjà vu, premonitions. But if we ignore, nothing happens. I saw a timeline where I accepted a job abroad, something I refused out of fear. Along these lines, I found the love of my life and saved dozens of people with my gift. But this reality did not happen because I said no when impulse told me go. I saw another path where I indulged in alcohol, a detour I almost chose years ago, and became just another statistic. And in this scenario, the angels, they fought all the time to send signals. People, phrases, music, alerts. Almost everything was an attempt to redirection. Most humans don't realize it, but they live surrounded by attempts at spiritual realignment. The question is, are you listening, or are you numb to the noise of the world? It was at that moment that the penny dropped. Every choice I make, even the small ones, like calling someone, declining an invitation, walking down a different street, it could be a piece in a larger spiritual engineering. An encounter that changes lives. A word that saves someone from depression. A decision that prevents a tragedy. And then they showed how angels collaborate with each other, creating true domino effects to align people, meetings, missions. It was like watching an invisible orchestra where every human being is an instrument, but he only plays the melody when he listens to the internal beat. That made me actually cry, because I realized how many times have I been one step away from the miracle, but I didn't see it. And maybe, how many people are now too? After understanding how every detail of life was intertwined by this invisible network of synchronicities designed by superior intelligences, I felt small, not in the sense of insignificant, but as someone who finally realizes the immensity of the stage on which he is performing. And that was when the entity, my higher counterpart, my inner angel, asked the question that no human being should respond automatically. Now that you know, do you want to remember or forget? The question seemed simple, but it carried a crushing weight. He explained to me that many who experience this level of revelation ask to forget upon returning to the physical body. Why remember? It hurts. Remembering forces you to change. Remembering means never living on autopilot again. Most humans do not reject light. He just prefers the comfortable darkness of what he doesn't understand. And there, in the silence of that space between worlds, I saw hundreds, perhaps thousands, of other souls, floating on their own journeys. Some ready to remember, others running away in despair from the truth they had glimpsed, the truth that they are more powerful than they imagine, and therefore more responsible. It was then that they showed me the childhood of the soul, a stage in which we still trust completely what we are told, parents, leaders, religions, gurus, without filtering, without questioning. And then comes the spiritual adolescence where we begin to rebel, seek meaning, challenge dogma. But few reach the maturity of the soul. Few accept the weight and freedom of creating their own reality in communion with the source. Remembering is the gateway to freedom. Forgetting is a return to comfortable captivity. I understood with painful clarity that many guardian angels can only act fully when you choose to remember who you are. While you doubt, sabotage yourself, live under anesthesia, they can only observe, cheer, and send you signals that you often don't even notice. And then, I was taken to one last place. A decision room. It seemed to be made of mirrors, but none of them reflected my face. Only possibilities. Lives that I could still live. Futures that bifurcated from a single point of choice. Return to the body and remember. Or go back and forget. To come back and say, it was just a dream. Or go back and declare the world is full of codes and now I can see them. The memory could cost you everything, Trevor. But the truth will give you real wings. It was in this room that I made my choice. And when I said, with every fiber of my conscience, I want to remember, I need to remember, I felt a wave of energy go through everything. I was told there would be a price for this. But the mission would begin as soon as I opened my eyes. When I made my decision, I want to remember, I felt like the entire universe held its breath for a second. The hall of mirrors crumbled into motes of light, and with a silent crack, I was pulled back. It was not a smooth return. It was like being thrown into a burning body. I heard the noise of machines, distorted voices. Someone shouted, "He's back! We have a pulse!" It was the hospital. I had been considered clinically dead for 9 minutes and 13 seconds. The doctors couldn't explain how my heart started beating on its own again, but I knew. Because right there in the recovery room with tubes and monitors everywhere, they were still there. The angels. But not like before. Now, I saw them. Not with physical eyes, but with this new perception that came glued to the memory. They were behind the health professionals, guiding hands, inspiring decisions. They were in silence. Between one beat and another of the heart monitor. They were in the comforting words a nurse said to me. Words that she later admitted she didn't even know why she said. "They're still acting, Trevor," said a voice inside me. But now, you this. In the days that followed, I began to realize everything different, as coincidences increased. Vivid dreams returned. People I didn't even know started telling me their mystical experiences, as if I was giving off some signal that I could listen to them without judging. And along with this new vision came the mission. They asked me to tell them, but not with pretty words or sweet metaphors. They asked naked, raw truth that shocks but liberates. They asked me to alert. Not every angel is light. Not all light is true. And not all darkness is evil. There is an intelligent and active spiritual system operating around us at all times. Some of these beings work for our elevation. Others feed on our distraction. But what defines who wins? It is not a memorized prayer. It's consciousness. It's the courage to look within and remember that you are not a puppet waiting for salvation. You are part of heaven itself. It is a spark of the whole. Today, every decision I make goes through a new filter. Does it bring me closer to the truth, or seduce me with comfort? And in every moment of doubt, fear, or emptiness, I feel that presence. My angel, my oldest and truest part. My living memory. His voice still echoes. The war continues. But now you are armed with light. And you, who have heard my story so far, you have a choice to make too. Will you forget? Or will you start to remember? If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time!